You've probably seen them everywhere, video after video claiming you only need 0.1 Bitcoin to retire.
Is just 0.1 Bitcoin enough to retire?
0.1 Bitcoin.
0.1 Bitcoin.
0.1 Bitcoin.
0.1.
But here's what's bugging me. Why are there so many, and why is the number so suspiciously low? If you haven't met, my name's Joseph, and I make videos on a wide variety of topics to help you live a more regret-free life. And look, I'm not here to crush your dreams, but something just isn't adding up. And after digging around this trend, I found 3 reasons why these videos keep popping up. And spoiler alert, it's not because 0.1 Bitcoin is actually some magic retirement number. Before we dive in, let's talk about where this whole thing started. While it's tough to pin down the exact origin, this claim seems to trace back to some of the ultra bullish Bitcoin predictions from a few years ago. The kind where people were throwing around numbers like Bitcoin to 40 million or Bitcoin to replace global wealth. The math was pretty simple actually. If Bitcoin did reach those astronomical numbers, then yeah, 0.1 Bitcoin could theoretically set you up for life. But somewhere along the way, this hypothetical calculation turned into financial advice, and now it's everywhere. The problem is, these predictions got separated from their original context and became an oversimplified soundbite that everyone is running with. Michael Saylor, who runs MicroStrategy, well, now it's just called Strategy, is definitely someone who's very bullish on Bitcoin now. He had kind of a change of heart from 10 years ago when he basically called Bitcoin online gambling. And now you can find quite a few clips that mention him and this number. But wherever it came from originally, let's start breaking down the potential problems. So, reason number 1 actually has a few different personal motivations for many creators, I believe. Obviously, this is just another form of trend hacking. I talked about that in another video where I talked about why so many people were talking about starting a YouTube channel, but these videos are absolutely crushing it. Even on channels with modest amounts of subscribers, they experience outlier amounts of views. And there's a reason for that. I mean, think about it. From a psychological standpoint, 0.1 Bitcoin feels achievable to most people. It's not like someone saying you need 10 Bitcoin to retire. It's rather unrealistic at this point. But 0.1, well, that's within reach. And then there's the curiosity factor, because deep down you know it sounds too good to be true. So you click to find out how they're justifying such a wild claim. It's like the perfect kind of clickbait. Now this brings me to reason number 2, and this has something to do with the numbers. Now, most of these videos are throwing around Bitcoin appreciation rates that seem a little optimistic to say the least. I've seen calculations assuming that Bitcoin will grow 30 to 40% annually for the next 30 years. Now, look, I'm bullish on Bitcoin myself to some degree, but that's some seriously aggressive math. I'm pretty sure that would put Bitcoin's value as more than the entire global economy altogether. So, a little much. I've also seen some rather inflated inflation rates. I think most people peg average inflation to around 3 to 4%. And if you add some points, that's around 7, but I've consistently seen them in the double digits. And as far as I can tell, I haven't seen double-digit inflation since before I was born. Now, many of these videos also rely on the comparison of being super early in on something. Since only about 4% of the world owns Bitcoin, then many are comparing this to be early to invest in like the internet or property in Manhattan. And while this could be true, it still doesn't justify the claim. And now the biggest issue, and this is my reason number 3, is based in the how much do you need to retire positioning. Let me explain. When my wife and I were living in Thailand, it is honestly quite shocking how far your money can go. But even though Thailand may be one of the cheapest cost of living countries in the world, you can also live quite a rich life. I mean, compare renting an insane penthouse condo in downtown Bangkok for 6,000 USD a month. And then compare that to one apartment that we stayed in for a few months, which was a tiny studio, and that only cost us 110 US dollars per month. Same city, wildly different lifestyles. The core problem is the wide generalization. This might be the most personal financial question that exists and encompasses so many different things about your life, your lifestyle, your health, where you want to live, what do you want to do. Some people in the US are perfectly content living on $30,000 a year. Others, they feel broke on $120,000. And if you're living in some countries around the world, a small amount can go a long way. The point is, it depends so much on each person that making a blanket statement about any amount, whether it's 0.1 Bitcoin or 10 Bitcoin, is basically meaningless. So how much Bitcoin would I say the average American might potentially need to retire? Well, let's get realistic for a minute. I think the best Bitcoin price forecasts are ones that use the power law model. Now, the power law is a type of mathematical relationship where one quantity varies as a power of another. And these show up everywhere once you know what you're looking at. And I think this video clip I found gives one of the best visuals of this that I have ever seen.
For the purposes of this video, of figuring out how much Bitcoin you need to retire, I've actually taken the lower number based on these So here's a chart of the power law model. It uses regression analysis, and it also uses logarithmic scales to essentially flatten out this curve that makes it such that we can draw these beautiful lines. This is 15 years of Bitcoin, and it takes us another at least 15 years into the future. And it also shows what the effect the halving cycle has. And when it reaches this upper bound, that's obviously when it's in bubble territory, and when it reaches the lower bounds is when bad things have happened to Bitcoin. But this just repeats over and over and over with each halving cycle. This is the lowest out of those two models. And from there, we can figure out how much Bitcoin you'll need to retire.
So if we use the power law and estimate that Bitcoin could reach 1 million by 2033, that's in 11 years, it would match gold's market cap, which seems very reasonable to me. At least a lot more reasonable than outpacing the entire world economy. Since the future is so hard to predict a majority of the time, I think people that are pegging Bitcoin to a particular number are asking the wrong question. Because at the end of the day, whether Bitcoin makes you wealthy or not isn't about hitting some magic number. It's about making informed decisions that align with your actual life, your actual goals, and your actual risk tolerance. And honestly, most people probably won't say this, but just go buy a little Bitcoin. You'll probably thank me in 15 years. If this video interested you, give it a like, and you might enjoy this one where I try to spend some Bitcoin in real life. We'll see you next time, fam.